Hi, everybody. Welcome to Meet the Mailers. I'm Paul Bobnak for Who's Mailing What, and today my guests are Kim Pannos, Creative Director at Darwill, and Mark DeBoer, Senior Vice President for Sales. Before we get started, keep in mind that you can join our conversation by commenting below, show your support by tapping the like button, and to get notified of new videos when they're added to the channel, click on subscribe. Now, let's meet today's guests. Welcome, Kim and Mark. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Well, let's start by talking about both of your backgrounds, how you got involved with direct mail, and also what both of your present roles involve at Darwill.
Sure. Do you want to start?
Oh, thank you.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Ladies first.
I started out as a designer a bit over 15 years ago, and I've worked in many different settings, whether that be agency, in-house, but all really circling around direct response marketing. About 10 years ago, I was asked to join the team here at Darwill, specifically to work on our clients' direct mail campaigns. Over the past 10 years, Darwill has grown exponentially. Our technologies have grown, and our department's grown. So now I'm the creative director, and I'm kind of managing a group over here that does content writing, creative, print, digital, to bring our clients' campaigns omni-channel.
Wow.
And I kind of took a different path. I was born into the business. The joke I like to say, of course, is my dad was a stripper, and then you can age yourself and know whether you know what stripping is in the print world, then you know how long you've been in it. So I started out with my days of going with my dad to the office, which was actually here at Darwill. He worked at Darwill for 40 years, I think. So
wow,
been here a little while. And I would go with him to cut little squares with holes in them so he could put them on the pins and tape them onto his different film sets and do all that. So that was my introduction into light rooms and light tables and opaquing and tape, the sound of tape constantly being done, and multiple burns. So that's what I kind of grew up in. I got a lot older after I was a little kid and went in with him, and I entered in Darwill in sales 27 years ago now. So we were traditionally a print shop, but we were starting to make the shift even probably 25 years ago as the advent of digital and being able to speak to people on a one-to-one message, when one-to-one was actually a new buzzword.
Yeah.
I really started kind of on that ground floor and have seen the evolution of what one-to-one marketing looked like from then until now. And so that's kind of my long history in a short 3 or 4 sentences. So my dad stripper is always the line I go with.
Yeah, that's a good one. And there are a lot of us, like you said, who remember all of the old printing tech from years ago. Sometimes it seems like it was a long time, and sometimes it was like almost yesterday.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Darwill. What types of services does the company offer to marketers?
Sure, we're traditionally a direct mail partner with our partners, so we work with companies and their marketing departments directly. We also are a partner with other people who may be like an agency or something like that, where they've got a different kind of a relationship where we help kind of augment and support them. But traditionally, all of our pieces are mailed to somebody, or it's a direct targeted message delivered, because we not only do just print, we're also doing digital as well. But I think the way that we summarize it is we kind of start with the data. We have a full suite of data analysts that can help us start with that. And then we figure out how to best market to people, delivering the best ROI with whatever the case may be.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the role of creative in direct mail. Why is it so important to a marketer's strategy?
I'll take that one. So creative, you need it to send out the mail. But I think when Darwill and we're working with the client, creating for them, we're not just looking for a branding piece. We're not just looking to get somebody's name out there. We want this mail to evoke a response out of the recipient. So sometimes we take tactics that aren't, the prettiest, or, just high brand. We are doing things that direct people to take one single action. So the creative, the direct mail may be something that, the marketing department is not used to. But since the team here has been in direct mail for so many years, and we work on thousands of clients and campaigns over a year's time, we've kind of come to know the importance of the different pieces of direct mail campaign that can drive that response. Whether it be not reversing out the single call to action because people's eyes aren't trained that way, keeping line lengths to a certain degree of characters because it's easier for somebody to read and get through. Those are things that your creative or agency should be taking into account when working on mail campaigns, because mail's been around for a long time. If you're doing it right, you're tracking it and you're learning a lot from it each time to continue and make improvements on your campaigns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What we get too is that because we deal with so many different verticals, there's a lot of learnings that we can get from one vertical that is transferable to another. And there's times when we try something and go, that didn't work, but you have to measure it. You have to measure the creative along with the data and the delivery methods, whether it's mail or digital. You have to always be measuring to figure out what works. There's so many things you could test from a creative standpoint, data standpoint, that sometimes we're always testing something. We just have to usually pull the reins back and go, don't test everything all at once, because you're never figure it out. That doesn't work.
No, you can't throw the whole kitchen sink at the wall and find any learnings. But also, I think because of the sophistication of the data and working with an agency that knows how to work that into the creative is going to help and get you a stronger piece. We've been putting first names and personalization on pieces, but now we can take it a little further and target people with the right type of imagery, talk to a single family household versus a couple or a family, and those things kind of just make the creative and the campaign more appealing to the end reader.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, two things struck me that you said. One is talking about design in the way that everything flows in a direct mail piece, and you certainly see that with a lot of direct mail where there's a real disconnect between a front panel of a self mailer, and then when you open it up, you're not really sure of how things should flow because it doesn't make sense the way it's displayed to you.
Don't want to get jolted. We try not to get into those kind of tactics of just getting somebody to open the mail and then not knowing what's happening inside. It does need to be cohesive. Mm-hmm. And I think you do have to have a specific hierarchy to work somebody through a direct mail campaign, which is very important. And then when you're doing your mail, when you have all these other digital avenues, whether it be something as simple as informed delivery or Facebook, targeting ads, that you're kind of getting the same call to action. You're the same feel, same look, so that brand representation is there, but also that, I saw that they were offering 20% off of something. I didn't do that yet. I want to do that now that I've seen this secondary digital ad, but it feels familiar because all the pieces are working together and not against each other in silos.
Right, exactly. And the other thing that I picked up on is using ideas that work in one vertical and apply them to another vertical. And it's something that we always talk about, who's mailing what. That's one of our unique selling points for the last 30, 40 years, which is study what other people do in mail. And even though it may not directly apply to your marketplace or your entire vertical, ideas are ideas. Ideas are either they're good or bad. And like you also said, both you talking about testing reveals a lot more. Yep. So let's talk about some specific ways that marketers can use the power of print and all the capabilities to get the most from design?
So just that influx of the technology of all of our different printing solutions and what's available to us, along with that data paired together, is what's really driving the pieces now and making them dynamic and direct one-to-one to that person opening their mailbox. Before, when I started, great, you could print digitally and you might be able to throw in a big headline with somebody's name in it, which caught their attention maybe. But now we're kind of taking that even further. We can, do things like show somebody a map on how far away your home is to the nearest location. We can show pictures, of their property if we're serving, a real estate piece or a refinancing mortgage type of piece. There's a lot of ways to speak to what we know from data to that person. It also kind of is good with the different touches in a customer's journey. They may be doing things online or in our client CRM, kind of, letting us talk to them more directly and where they're at. Whether it be a past purchaser, somebody who's come to your site but hasn't purchased, all those data points are getting collected, and we can make kind of paths for each of those people in the funnel.
I think the other thing that we're seeing more and more of is, I think traditionally, if you look at customers who have like a direct mail silo, and then they have their digital group, SEO, pay-per-click, whatever it might be on the digital world, display ads. Sometimes those worlds aren't always talking to each other. Like they're all working off of a brand standard that may be given to them by an agency or something like that. But when those messages come out, there's not always this like usage of the data in both the silos, so that when a person got a direct mail piece, they should get a digital ad a few days after or a few days before it hit their mailbox, and then continue to hit them before or after, but just have a cohesive strategy with these multiple different methods of delivering the information, which I think that's where we see the biggest convergence happening, is using that data that we have to know that we just hit Paul on Tuesday with an offer. On Wednesday, I'm going to serve them up with this, an email, say, or something very basic. And then maybe hit them with the display ad 5 times after that. And it all looks the same. It's strategically timed. And I think that's a lot of what we're doing now to really just drive the power of what that print does, is getting that attention, because everybody sees it. That's I don't want to say it's the guarantee, because my wife doesn't see the mail because I'm the mail nerd at the house. But I still everybody gets their mail and has to do something with it. I can't just grab it and just dump it into the recycling bin as I'm walking back into my house. So I think that's where the power of print just is, that even if it's a quick capture, it's something.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think to go back to something Kim was talking about with the geo-marketing, is such a great use of variable data printing to be able to reach people where they are, and in such a unique but practical way.
Yeah.
So we start with mail, but we keep going and get in all these other places, like Mark said. So that might be the first time you see us, and because you took those steps to the mailbox, you kind of committed it to your memory. But now all of a sudden you're seeing us on, your streaming video ads, or in your social feeds. Just keeping that going.
So let's go off on a little bit of a different tangent and talk about postage and paper increases. We know that it's been on the minds of everybody for the last year and a half, sort of dovetailing with the pandemic. How has that affected mail design as well as strategy?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's obviously very timely, and it's going to be timely for us every 6 months for the next, delivered into the future, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
So I think as we think about that, I don't know that necessarily the design changes as much as being smart about the data becomes of the utmost importance. I think that kind of like what I just talked about in the attention capturing you get with the direct mail piece, driving maybe some other supporting channels of digital where it's low cost delivery, where maybe on its own that digital channel just gets lost, or there's it's cheap and everybody goes, oh, we spend a ton on digital, but it's all cheap, right? And so it's cheap and that's why I do it. Well, if it's cheap and ineffective, then what's the point of using it anyways? Because sometimes you might have to spend a little bit more money, so postage goes up, paper goes up, and whatever it might be, like, you have to look at the ROI on it and go, okay, what kind of a lift do I get when I maybe add some other like lower cost touches to like maybe just boost the lift? So I think it's getting strategic with the data, and then like breaking down those two silos like I talked about, where you have to have the DM and the digital strategies very, very tight with each other, pointing back to what data do we have and what can we market to, and kind of see what kind of a lift and measure it to see what's happening.
Not wasting any of your budget by targeting people who aren't going to respond. I think that's where kind of our data science team shines, is helping us model and understand who we should be targeting, not just spray and pray.
Yeah, completely agree. So let's get back to something we touched on earlier, which is convergence and omni-channel marketing. How can direct mail really work best with other channels?
Well, I think if you're working with the right agency and they are using model data across the board, not just for mail, then they can continue to use it in those other channels. You're already putting yourself in a good spot, because then you do know you're not targeting John over here, but Sam over here, and it's the same message, but not the same person getting it. The other thing is that, a true omni-channel experience isn't just that I saw these ads in 3 places. It's I saw the same kind of call to action, ask, offer, messaging in those multiple places. So when you have all your marketing work coming out of the same place, you're able to control that a lot more and make sure you are putting out a cohesive message. And also when you're testing and learning, then you can also pivot cohesively and not have, those outliers out there of some, mail campaign that's just been running forever, continuing to go. You kind of rail that back in too.
I mean, I think we're definitely seeing customers who are they're sophisticated and well down the whole like customer journey communication roadmap, and others are like, yeah, we should probably have this thing that tells us like what we should be saying to people as they become a customer of ours, or as we're trying to get them, what are we offering? So I think we have such a convergence of like people who get it and people who are still like infancy stage. It's kind of like it's probably not exactly the same, but similar to like when we first brought out the first digital presses, where people were like, wait a second, so you can change the whole sheet at one time? How does that print look? Does it going to match like what I'm seeing on a press? And we had to kind of like talk through those differences, and we're kind of at that same kind of a impasse of like, okay, well, we got to get there, so how do we like all feel real comfortable about building a communication roadmap and being real clear on how to lay it out, sell it to whoever needs to sign off on it, and then execute it without it being like a ton of work for somebody to have to do. Because if it's not done well and efficiently, well, it starts to get expensive, and we're trying to keep that as seamless as possible, which is, I think, what our big focus is in on. Start the data, build the creative out of that, and drive all these things that happen because we have a plan. And once you have that plan set, it just kind of happens. So some of that takes commitment to not just like turn it on, turn it off. You have to be committed to like, we're going to struggle through what this might look like, and we're going to measure along the way to figure out where are we winning and how do we keep on winning in doing more of the same or tweak it to be better.
I completely agree. Well, In a similar vein, how can direct mail be sent to prospects based on their online behavior?
Yeah. So we do a couple things where we are doing some geo-targeting types of efforts where we're tracking like somebody's mobile activity and figuring out what that IP address might be linked to, and then mailing them a piece. So we have a program called Rapid Retargeting where somebody visits your website, abandons a shopping cart, browses something, and takes off, doesn't do the next thing you want them to do. We're capturing that IP address and then mailing him out a first-class postage piece the next day, so that we're capturing them within a 5-day window. I guess with now delivering for America, maybe it's 5 to 7 days.
Yeah.
But it's still first class, right? And we're doing our best to keep the thought fresh while my online experience triggered something that's now going to allow me to market to that person. We're building programs that allow for us to do that as well. And we've got a platform that allows us, if somebody's got 25 people a day, it's not a bank buster because we have a system that collects them and runs it, and we can kind of measure that for these people along the way.
Cool. So we've talked a lot about like old school direct mail, a lot of new and exciting and cool things happening. Overall, though, what are your thoughts about the best value proposition for direct mail? Why does it still work?
Well, I think it goes back to just the fact that you know that eyeballs are getting on your piece, whether it's traditionally run or whatever, or digitally run, whatever it might be. Like, they have to do something with your piece. Like, it may be that you get a split second to see that, XYZ client name is in the corner and it's a piece. It's not of interest to me, and I got rid of it. But they looked at it, and like I just got back from vacation and I went, oh gosh, 693 emails. I just went, this isn't somebody will get back to me. So that was all gone.
Right.
Really easy for me. But I still have my bundle of mail. When I held my mail for a week, I still have to go through that. And I'll go through it, and I have a process like many people do, where I go, need this is cool. But that's probably the pile that not everybody has, but this is cool.
True.
But I had to engage with it at some level. And I don't think it's the same with digital, but we all know when we've been digitally targeted. When I go look at a shirt online, and all of a sudden, like, I get display ads for the 7 shirts that I looked at all the time. And we know that experience is happening. I think that people maybe don't always realize that you're actually getting in the mail too. Like I had an experience that started with my mail, because I got a notice that, hey, their annual sale is happening between July 8 and July 12. And I went online and like, oh shoot, it's July 4. It's not open yet. So, but then I was all of a sudden getting all kinds of digital ads displayed, but not one of them said, hey, come back and check our sale from July 8 to 12. They were just targeting me because I went to the site. And could they have done something differently? Perhaps they could have, but at the same time, like, they probably didn't really know that it was me, because their data maybe didn't say, we mailed this annual clearance sale to Mark. So if he comes and visits, we know Mark's IP address, so you should serve him this, not the general populace.
Yep.
Again, your data's got to be clean and updated and talking to each other to do it better. One of my favorite things about mail, though, is that it stays around. It can be thrown in a pile to go through later. It can be stuck in a date book to, go back to that offer. Lots of pieces that we're doing for customers have some sort of like tear off, buck slip, leave behind, where most of the piece is going to get thrown away, and that's fine. But they held on to this because they want to do something about it. Versus the digital ads, great in tandem, but on its own, it's almost like an annoying fly at times. You're just like, okay, yeah, I know you're there. I'm not ready to do that. Get out of here. And it's gone. Versus, that piece that I held on to or stuck on my calendar, my refrigerator, wherever it is, that I do circle back around on. Kind of has a longer shelf life.
And I always felt like, I was like, is that a I'm going to age myself and go, is that an old person thing? Like that does that? But Kim's a lot younger. Kim's a lot younger than me. My kids are younger than I am, obviously, and they're even excited about it. They're like, Dad, I got this American Eagle coupon, and I'm like, oh, I kept it because it was really cool because they did this thing with the barcode, and like, did you see the QC procedures they tried to go through to get that? And she's like, just give me the coupon. I want it back. I know it expires soon, and I'm like, well, you're gonna really just go buy it because you have. She's like, yeah. I'm like, then I have to give them the whole talk of, spending money to save money is kind of a losing proposition, but her being a 20-year-old, and that happened when she was like 18, when she could start getting her own mail like that. And she was like so excited. I was like, this has the longevity of mail written on it because they're so used to TikTok, Instagram, all the things that like they're inundated with day after day, but then when they get that one piece to them, they're like, oh, all excited.
It stands out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a good upbringing there.
Yeah.
And also like the whole thing with experiences with Gen Z, the analog is books and records and all those things sort of coming back.
Yeah.
Yep. So wrapping up, what trends do you see unfolding in direct mail for, the rest of the year and going into 2023?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably hit it on it a lot, but I think the data is probably the biggest thing I see as the next big leaps to maybe make in figuring out what are people doing with their first party data? Are you aggregating second party data, third party data? How are you using that? What's going to happen with privacy laws and not allowing you to do some of these things? And how does that affect marketers? It's that borderline of like, we can get really creepy on the data that we can get, and how much are like people really going to be okay with it versus like, I always tell everybody, he's like, well, that's really creepy. You do that. I go, well, don't you like to be served a targeted ad that meets your need right now today? Because I sure do. And I think as we like work with that to figure out what that looks like, I think that's where the biggest like maturation in our industry is going to come from. Presses they kind of are what they are. Like we figured out how to print one piece specifically for Paul, and it can have everything in it, and it can all be done in mass. And we figured that out with like high-speed inkjet, being able to like get that. So besides just like driving down those costs, which I don't know if I really see that happening, especially in our economy, I think the data is the spot where we have to focus our attention on making sure that that data is driving all of our activity, not just our digital, just our Facebook ads, just our direct mail campaigns. We have to look at the whole thing. And then I think even just using our first party data smarter to, maybe pay a little bit more for one piece, but it's really going to your very, very, very best prospect. It should lead to a really good ROI. So you should be good spending your money there, and then maybe dial it back and forth based on where your other data is coming from.
Okay. I think that's a really great place to end things. How can people find out more about Darwill and possible consultation or partnerships?
Yeah, we'd love to have a conversation with anybody. Probably the best thing, so I don't have to say DEB as in boy, not V, because people think the B sounds like a V, at Darwill.com. You can just tune into the information provided below in the comments section, and you can find my contact info there. Be happy to have a call with you to see how we can develop.
Okay. Well, thank you again, Mark and Kim, for being with us today. Really appreciate it. And thank you all out there for joining us today. And remember that you can join our conversation by commenting below, show your support by tapping the like button, and click on subscribe to be notified of new videos. If you're interested in being featured in a future Meet the Mailers, I'd love to hear from you. So my contact information can be found in the paragraph below by tapping Show More. Thanks for watching Meet the Mailers, and see you next time.